Everything you need to know about the Apelles palette, part 8 of 30. I've got my colors on my palette here: white, yellow, red, black. This is the Apelles palette. Now when it comes to the color wheel, you typically have yellow, red, and blue as your three primary colors. Here we have, you could say, four primary colors because we have the white and we have black instead of blue. So for the primary colors, things are going to be slightly different, and you don't really see the difference until you start mixing your secondaries. So let's just get into the secondary colors. The most obvious one here is going to be yellow and red, which are going to make orange. So we're just going to put some yellow there, get a little bit of the red, and this is a pretty standard orange. So there's our orange. Now we have the problem with the blue, right? Typically you would mix blue with your other colors. So now we're going to use black instead. So the black has a little bit of blue in it. This is why I talked about this being a Mars black, and that's a crucial factor. So if I mix just a little bit of this in with the yellow here, even had perhaps too much of the black, so I'll just leave that there. But you see this green, so there you have green. And if you want to get your violet, you have some options here, but we're going to take the red. We're going to put this down here. So typically you could just mix your blue, but we're going to use the black instead, and we're going to do the same thing as we just did with the green. So this is a very deep violet right here. You can kind of see it when it's transparent more easily. Right now it just looks like a very deep black. So next I'll mix the black with the white here, and this will be our Apelles blue, as I have shown before. This is not blue per se, but it's Apelles blue, gray blue. That's going to be very practical for the palette. Now we've got all of our secondary colors, and this is the Apelles blue, but as you saw when I'm mixing, I'm not using any of that white. So that's why I'm taking just black into the yellow to make the green. I'm taking black into the red to make the violet. And the reason for that is just that you don't want to muddy it up. So you've got more of that blue really in the black, and the white is going to change things depending on how you mix it. So if I show you here with the violet, let's say we take some of this white and you add this in, then it becomes more apparent, right? You can see that's more like a violet. If I do the same thing with the green, it's not quite going to work the same, but it will be similar. So if we take the green with the white, right, this is going to be a little bit more dulled down in a way. So this is why it's important to know the actual practical aspect of working with the Apelles palette. Which colors are going into your mixtures, and how are you going to use these together? So for your green, for example, you'd probably want more yellow in your highlight type areas. If you're going to use a sort of green and you want to get a kind of a vibrant, bright color, you'd use more just yellow in your highlight areas. So this is why it's important to know what mixtures actually work in a practical setting. How do you mix these colors, right? Theory is great, but it's only going to take you so far, and in this case you need to know how the colors work together in this practical sense to really be able to get some compelling mixtures. You can't only use the color wheel and expect that to give you all your results. You need to be familiar with the colors that you have here, and some of the differences that we'll notice are, the blue is obviously not on the palette, so we have the Apelles blue that we could use if we're going to need some coolness. If you're going to mix a violet or a green, you want to mix more directly with your black rather than going into your Apelles blue, because it will become too gray in some settings. And another practical tip, I mean, the yellow and red, for example, I know that the red is more saturated than the yellow, so it's not going to take as much red as yellow to create a nice balanced feeling orange. From this mixture we can still create a rainbow, so I'll just do that right over here on the side of the palette. Get the yellow there, take some orange. We can blend out our tertiary in the middle of those. We'll take some red. And then we can get into our green. And the yellow green. Then we'll get our Apelles blue here. Finally, the violet. So there you can see what the rainbow looks like with the Apelles palette. You know, we're going to have our red is going to be a primary, yellow is going to be a primary, and then the black is going to mix in this area to give us those cooler colors. Join me in the next part to talk about complementary colors.